Gorilla at Designer Con. We're gonna go around check out some booths, get to know some people. So we're gonna go in and say hi to Ken's Tools.
Hello.
Hey, how are you, Ken?
Nice to see you.
So you have a lot of different tools. You do prosthetic eyes and teeth.
Yes, we do.
Best tools in the business.
Thank you.
How did you get into tools?
Back in the day, I started working in a special effects shop, and I made a couple tools to help for mold making, and one of the sculptors saw those and said, hey, could you make me something like that? And so I did. He came back a couple times later and had me make a few more, and once I did that, he said you should start making these and selling them. So I came up with a few different designs, and it's been 20 some odd years now.
Nice.
And we're still going.
Could you show us which one is your favorite tool?
I think my favorite tool is and I will choose this one, the ST8. And I choose this one because it has a rake on one side and a guitar string on the other. Most sculptures you will rake the surface to get a even uniform surface, but you end up with the rake marks, so then you flip it over to the other side, and that helps smooth out the other wrinkles and rake marks. So instead of grabbing for a second or third tool, you have a second tool right there.
And so we have a lot of young viewers who are just getting into art. What is some advice you might be able to give them?
I would say don't give up, keep trying. No matter what anybody tells you, you just do what you're going to do. Let your art flow and keep working at it. You'll only get better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, have a nice day. We're here for the art portion of Designer Con. This is the Hamilton art show, which is all celebrating the voices of Mark Hamill. A lot of different artists put in on this, myself included. So let's take a look at the show. So right here we have Carmen Acosta, better known as Jane Doe.
My buddy right here.
Yeah, curator of the art show. How did you get involved in this?
You know, I do the Decon show every year. Last year was Jurassic Park, and this year they said, do something based on Mark Hamill. And I said, I am not doing Star Wars. And they were like, you gotta do Star Wars, you know, the movie and Disneyland. And I'm like, I just can't bring myself to do a Star Wars show. Love it, but let's do something else. And you know, Mark's done over 350 voice characters in animation. So I thought, let's do that. Let's give some people a challenge, have them research it a little bit and find like a really obscure character or a really well-known character like Skips, and let's have a show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Thanks.
Was it hard finding all these artists to put together?
I've been doing this for 13 years, so it's a mixture of my roster of all the shows I've done, like yourself and Scribe, Jim Mahfood, who have all become close friends. And also Ben from Decon has a lot of referrals that come in. So I ask about 200 and then I get down to 53, which is expected, you know.
So we have a lot of young viewers,
Yeah.
and a lot of students or people who would like to try and break into getting
Yeah.
gallery shows. What advice would you have for them?
I mean, group shows, guys. Group shows. Get into a really good group show. Throw your own group show. You know, that's what I did. I wanted to do this in 2008. I got some friends together. You find a space. You do a pop-up, like call me, I will guide you through it. There's some specific things you need to do, like just your details and making a really good presentation of the art for it to sell. But group shows are the way to go. You'll do them your whole career if you can, if you want to, like you do. And I think it's a really good way to get your work out there, meet other artists, and just start seeing if this is what you really want to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Good luck to you.
I love you. You're the best.
All right. Thank you. One of the artists we interviewed yesterday was Scribes, and here's his piece for the show. So I was lucky enough to contribute to the show, so I chose to do as many of the Mark Hamill roles as I could, tried to throw it all into one piece. So I did an actual piece of Mark Hamill. I gave him the candy beard, sticky beard. He's got the giant cock knocker fist from Jay and Silent Bob. I did a lot of tattoo work to reference other roles like Darth Bane. I was really impressed with Mark Hamill, how much I didn't know that he was a part of. Like, he was a turtle in Winnie the Pooh. He was in Scooby-Doo. He's been in Adventure Time and Happy Tree Friends. So I was just trying to put as much of what I learned through research into doing a piece that was about him. We're heading over to meet with Camille, who did the
Camille Rose Garcia.
she did the poster for the show.
Poster and cover art for the show, and she also has a book release, and she's probably the most well-known female artist in the pop surrealist movement.
Wonderful. Thank you.
This is the only time.
So you do everything with DesignerCon.
I do everything with DesignerCon with my amazing team.
And how
So-
did you get started with something like this?
So I was a collector, and I also opened up my store, 3D Retro, and I realized there was really nothing for our community. There was really nothing for like the art toy collectors out there for us to get together or a show. There was at the time, you know, the cons were doing little sections, but they like our crowd was getting cut out, and especially now with the larger cons, they're like dissipating, or our audience can't get into those cons because it's too crowded or too expensive. So I started the show, and we started with 10 vendors in a 1,000 square foot hall, and I thought it was amazing because we had like 100 people show up, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. So I just kept doing it and growing it and inviting more people, and 14 years later we have this, which is awesome.
And what do you see for the future of DesignerCon?
You know, DesignerCon, there's different facets that we touch. So clearly there's the toys, then there's the art, there's apparel, there's pins, there's all these other things, and I feel like we're just starting to touch certain aspects of it. Like, I'd like to get more of the clothing things involved. I'd like to get more of the other weird things that are involved in our scene and involved with the artists. So it's sometimes difficult to find what those things are, but you know, when I stumble upon something like that, I want to keep growing the show. So, you know, that's kind of my goal. Just keep it fresh, keep it lively, keep it moving, and keep the artists coming back.
Wonderful. We have a lot of young viewers who are watching this who are thinking like, I think I want to do something in art. I think I want to get into toys. What advice would you have for them?
I would tell them, do it. Create your own style. You know, think of ways that can make you different and unique from, you know, from anybody else out there. And yeah, just go for it. Just try it, and don't be afraid to fail, because you will. You will fail. You will fail multiple times, but then eventually you'll hit on something that you will succeed upon. And as long as you don't give up before then, you'll be fine. You will be okay. Because if you ask a lot of the artists in this hall, in this show, they have done that. They failed multiple times. You know, most of the artists do not succeed on their first try.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for DesignerCon.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for supporting the show.
So here we are with Camille Rose Garcia. We're with Plastic Cell TV, and we have a lot of young viewers who are really into art. What kind of advice would you give to them?
Oh, for makers?
Makers and buyers, for people who are...
Well, I would say, you know, buy what you love, support independent artists. If you're a maker, don't give up. Definitely failure is like the halfway point to getting somewhere. And there's a lot of different avenues to sell your work and find buyers for your work if you are, you know, just starting out and trying to, like, you know, make a name for yourself. So.
And how long have you been doing art?
Oh gosh, a long time. Yeah, my mom was a muralist and a sign painter, so I studied with her when I was like 14, and and went to art school, went to fine arts program, and then kind of came back to illustration and toys and all of that stuff. So,
Cool. And so you've done illustration, toys.
Yep, gallery shows. Yeah, the whole gamut.
Nice. And so what inspires your work?
Well, I guess the start of it was sort of like punk rock music, how that was kind of for everyone. You could buy a record and experience that and love that. And I thought for like fine art, that was only for a select group of people. So like the idea of having work that everyone can enjoy. So I had books and toys and prints and things like that are at a good price point.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
your time.
you.
Have a
Really
pleasant
nice
night.
to meet you. Enjoy.
All right. Bye. All right, so here we are with Mondo. They do some really high-end action figures, toys. It looks like you guys have the rights for Masters of the Universe.
Yes, we do, yeah.
And then what, classic horror movies, Transformers, Iron Giant, some of the DC line. And how did you get into toys?
Well, it's a very long, sordid story, but basically, it's just from people I knew, just networking and kind of keeping my eye out. And when the opportunity arose, many years ago, I came into another company as a production assistant, just helping out, and then rose to the ranks, left that company, and eventually was brought on board with Mondo to start the toy line. Because previous to this, we just did like vinyl records and posters and pins, and it's about 6 or 7 years ago. That's when they brought me on to start the toy line.
Very cool. So, so far, what's been your favorite toy line to work with?
I really loved working on the Master of the Universe stuff because it allowed us a chance to reinterpret a lot of the classic characters in our own way, while still keeping them classic looking. We were also able to add in some new twists to them and some fun Easter eggs of all the different variations of a character in there. So that's been a lot of fun. Our Mondo Mecha line is one of my favorites currently, is because it has two branching paths. One is doing figures that are already robots, like Transformers and Iron Giant, and then also reinterpreting characters like Batman, Spider-Man, and Captain America's Japanese-inspired mecha. And that's just been a lot of fun to pull all of our reference and pull all of our inspiration from different anime, manga, robots, anything out there. Like we're just using to kind of feed into our design's aesthetic. So
we have a lot of young viewers who are looking to get into art and getting into like toy collectibles and even producing toy collectibles. Do you have any advice for them?
Stay away. No. The real advice is if you're a designer, illustrator, whatever it is you do, get it out there, post it online, do what you got to do to get it out there. If it's good, people will notice and they will find you. Go to shows, go to conventions, meet people. Even if it's not quite what you're looking to do, get in at the ground levels as much as possible. And just it's always about who you know, and if you're cool and you're doing great work, then you're going to get noticed. Simple as that.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. You have a great line.
Thank you.
This is a fun booth I found last year. It's Monster Rangers. They're like the Monster Scouts. They do actual scouting events. They've created a whole myth around their booth, and so they have patches and all sorts of camping type equipment. But it's a really fun booth to get into. So you can see here, they've got different patches for different activities. So we've got like here Rangers, you've got Sea Scouts. So you can kind of customize your scouting experience and your scouting outfit to match your monster and camping interests.
Hi. Yeah. Where do you want me?
Oh, just in your stuff.
Okay. How about here?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
So can you tell me a little bit about your booth and about how you guys got started?
How we got started? Okay, so we're Steam Crow, which is my husband and I. I'm Donna Davis, and my husband's Daniel Davis. And we got started in 2005 when Daniel took me to San Diego Comic-Con for my first ever convention as an attendee. And he told me he wanted to be an exhibitor here. at San Diego the next year. And so I told him to write a book, because he had a whole line of t-shirts in Cafe Press that all had a story. Each one had a story, and they were all monster based. So we wrote and illustrated our first book called Caught Creatures, and it's about Duke Davis captures monsters, puts them in his castle, and writes haikus about them. And we did that in 2 months, submitted it, got into WonderCon, and then got into San Diego Comic-Con, and then had to go, we need other places to sell this. So we started just applying for different conventions. That's how we got started. I opened my big mouth and this happened. And so we were Steam Crow for the longest time, and we're still Steam Crow, but we illustrated monsters but didn't have a focus. And so about 4 years ago, we decided to create these little badges as thank yous to our patrons and our people who came over and folded shirts for us, people who bought things from us. We did an exclusive one, and we made up a whole backstory about how they were monster rangers and they believed, studied, and protected their monster friends. And our people started showing up in uniform. And so we helped them with their uniforms so they didn't look like the Boy Scouts, and they looked like us. And we created branches, and then they wanted missions, so we made missions so they could earn badges, and then they wanted to go camping. And so now we have a whole community around our brand called the Monster Rangers that allows us to go camping and create and make things and make up stories and have a great time.
That's awesome.
So that's
you guys are
do.
like the perfect example of a startup success story. What advice would you have for people who are looking to get into something like this?
To do something like this, you got to work your ass off. Can I say that?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Yeah. So just, it's about having, you can't do it all on your own. It's good to have a good partner that's going to be reliable and stable that you can work with. And so Daniel and I work really well together, and we both had different strengths. And so he is a super strong designer, and I was an art teacher for 17 years. So I end up being like the art director, and he's like, the majority of our art is created by Daniel. And I'm the production manager. So I'm all old school and he's digital. So I'm our screen printer, and if we need to do something by hand, I sew the booth. I made all the panels, like everything the awning, everything that needs sewing or whatever, our aprons, that's all my doing. So all the old tech is me, all the new tech is him. And so find somebody that you can pair together and work really well with, and find something that is like your passion. Like, it's hard to find your focus in the first year, but keep trying and failing and recovering. And it's about recovering from your failures that you find your path and you figure out where you're gonna be. Does that make sense? Was that
perfect.
Like a jumbled mess?
Perfect. I love it.
Okay.
Love it. So what's on the front for Monster Rangers? What's coming up?
What's coming up? We have a whole new season of camps, but the best thing that we're doing is we're introducing our Doomwood Derby. So it's like Pinewood Derby, but it's our own little monster cars. So you're gonna get a kit, just like a Pinewood car, and you can paint it and design it. And we'll have different figures, like we've got an acrylic ghost, and we've got some other monsters that you can put in, or one that if you want to make it look like a human, there's a human, there's a male and female. But we're gonna make cars and have races.
And you can get those on your website?
Yeah, you will. They're not available yet, so we're getting them all together. We prototyped it, and we're getting the video made to show you how to put one together yourself. And we just got our brand new track in, so we're testing out our new track and getting everything done. So those will be ready in January.
Oh, I've already got things going in my
Yeah, we're super excited. So that's it. Our long-term goal, though, is to eventually have our own permanent campground. So we're trying to grow the Monster Rangers as much as possible so that we can find some land and theme it to us and have monster totem poles and have an area where we can have everybody come to and just get together and have a great camp experience.
Well, I wish you all the best. I'm excited to hear all those things.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Welcome. Thank you.
So one of my favorite parts of coming to DesignerCon is getting to meet this guy. This is Scribe. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Good. So you've been doing this for quite a while,
yeah.
And you do a whole bunch of different mediums like graffiti and painting and murals. you work with the hospital, and you're doing toys. What kind of advice can you give to somebody out there who's just getting started?
So one of the things that really ignited my passion, was I went into art school, kind of started going down this path of what I thought I was supposed to be doing, and got away from some of the things that originally got me into artwork in the first place, which was drawing animals and doing the stuff that you currently see. And so when I was kicked out of school and I had to refocus on what made me happy, I went back to the stuff that I was drawing as a kid. And that was, I used to go to the zoo and stuff overseas and go on safaris, and then I'd come home and feverishly draw animals. So I started drawing all the animals and stuff again, and then it didn't feel like work. And so when you can find your passion and you know that you've got to work harder than the average person, and the combined things come together, it doesn't feel like you have to do as much. It doesn't feel like you have to work as hard because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so reconnecting, finding that thing that you're passionate about and going ahead and sticking it out, I think I personally think is the way to go.
And you've been really lucky in the fact that you have a wife who does art as well, and that you guys have been able to collaborate on a lot of stuff. How does that dynamic work for you?
It works great, and I found the right lady, so it's not really that hard to create with her. She's a crazy patient person, so she's patient with me. But we understand each other. We've been together for 27 years now. We understand what each other's goals are, and so there are times where I pull back and I let her do the art direction, and other times where she feels like I should be taking the lead. And I think that understanding each other's strengths and understanding each other's dreams helps make good art.
Yeah, and I've been watching you guys for a long time, and one of the things that really excites me is your family is a big art family.
Yeah.
For somebody who's a parent, what kind of advice would you give them for nurturing that kind of art in a young child?
I listen to what my kids are into and what they like and what's going on, and try not to push them too hard. It's hard in this world. Everybody's trying to give their kid a jump start on something, and a lot of kids end up losing their kid time and being a kid. And so they'll get into art for a long time, and then I say I'm available to you. So when you want to learn more, if I can show you something, then I'll show it to you. But I'm not going to jump on your back and think we figured out the direction of your life and we're going to just start hammering this stuff in. So they'll take a break and they play some silly video game for a couple weeks or something like that. Then they kind of come back into art, and I'm there waiting, and I'm like, what can I help you with? Do you want to use my materials and stuff? Do you want to watch me do something? And so I think sometimes it's about reading them so that you don't overwhelm them with the idea that they have to grow up and do that exact thing, which could sometimes rob passion from people.
When talking about passion, you've been able to work your passion into your job because you work with the hospital and you make some amazing art for children who might be sick or having to deal with a lot of time in the hospital. And how's that work for you?
That's great. I always wanted to do art for kids. I either wanted to be involved in animation or doing children's books or something, and I never would have thought that I'd end up in a children's hospital. Worked in the sign industry, started doing signs for them, and developed into murals. 17 years later, I get a chance to make artwork for a reason that's way beyond myself. And social media and its growth has allowed a lot of parents and kids to actually interact with me. And so we're really focused on changing what the hospital experience is for people, to lower that anxiety, to maybe even train them into thinking that going to the doctor's not a big deal. I don't like going to the doctor, but I didn't grow up in a cool hospital. So maybe that's what'll help some of those kids who may have a long journey in life to not be so freaked out by the doctors in general. Just lower that anxiety.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Problem,
it's always a pleasure running
Thank
into
you. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks again.
No problem. Anytime.
All right.
Yeah, they're official. They're real.
Hi, Sean Regalado. I'm Gorilla.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So you have one of my favorite art stores. It was when I was getting out of college and everything was high art, and you guys had this accessible art for that you could go into and you didn't have to have a college education. You could just look around and there was something for everybody in there. What inspired you to start something like that?
I think I went to a lot of galleries that were always uncomfortable, right? You walk in and they don't make you feel like you should be there, or I feel like I'm underdressed. Just wasn't comfortable. So I wanted to make something that was more for everybody, democratic even. Because some of those places won't even sell you anything. They won't even tell you, they won't help you, they won't do anything. So I wanted to make a place that was more friendly, chill, and that was kind of the idea. So even an art show, I don't care if you come in shorts and a tank top, it doesn't matter, you know? So, but the idea is to make things accessible, just like you said. But I think a lot of other galleries now do that too. I think there's been so many new ones. And I think LA is the place for that. You know, like it's a more laid back place. And in LA too, like, I don't know, people judge, and they're really stupid if they do, because in this city, in LA, you could dress up, you could dress down. You know, the folks who dresses up might be the ones that are the most broke, and the ones that dress down might be the most wholesome, you know, regular persons. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you just don't know. Other cities, I think it's opposite. You have to, you know, you're always dressing up for something. So.
Yeah, and you've had some great shows. I mean, you have the Post-it show.
Oh, that one's coming up. Yeah, December. We do it every December, and I think it's the 15th year. Yeah. But that's an example of an accessible art show. You know, where every art piece is $25. There's 3,000 plus, and there's that many. I mean, you're actually servicing whoever wants to buy art. They can afford something.
Right. So, with it reoccurring, there's always a reason to go back and buy more.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
Yeah,
and we get as many. You know, we use every contact I have, I try to make everybody do art, even if they're the most famous, to new unknowns that are in college, right? So we get a lot of different kinds of people doing it, and that's what makes it better. But
now we're dealing with a lot of, or we're showing to a lot of young artists and people who are looking into getting into some kind of industry. What advice do you have to them as a young artist?
Man, I think as a young artist, you got to be persistent, you got to work hard, and you've got to be social. I hate to say it, you want to hide behind your Instagram or whatever. It can work for a second, and if you're really good, okay, it might work, but if you're like not a super genius, you know what I'm saying, but just hardworking, that's enough. But you have to be social. Like, it's kind of like one of those things, you have to be a genius, then you don't have to be social, but if you're not, it's better to be social and keep working really hard. I think you need like two out of three things, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you're a genius, all bets are off. You might be able to get away with everything, you know. But most of us aren't. We just got to be hardworking and got to be persistent, somewhat social. Just can't hide, you know. Get your work out there. Be a good person. Be fair. Be patient. You know, for some, the greatest things in their lives happen after 40. Man, there is no time limit to anything these days. You know, we're in a new world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You do.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
One of the fun parts about designer cons, you never know who's going to be here. So, you know, we get like celebrities, you get different artists, but here every once in a while you get like a fuzzy. Wild things. Excuse me. Can we interview you? We're just doing a vlog. So this is Chucho.
Yeah.
Nice. And this is an original monster?
Yeah, it is. He's a piñata. He's a maker. I'm a muralist.
Oh, nice. And so this is your design?
This is my design.
What was your name?
Michelle.
Michelle. Hi, Gorilla. And this is Plastic Cell.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So did your murals, is this something that made you focus for your murals?
Yeah, right now that's my main...
Chucho, sorry.
Right now I'm mainly focusing on murals and I'm designing toys. That's why I'm doing designer con. But I'm going to eventually make a children's book.
Oh,
that's the goal. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so did you make the costume yourself?
I didn't make it. I designed it.
Designed it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Thank you so
Fun
much.
Very good. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right. Oh, you get a hug?
All right. Bye.
Thank you. So we're here with Busy Mockingbird. You have a really fun, kind of unique story where your art is one thing, but then you also have this great relationship with your daughter that kind of works its way into it. Do you want to talk about that for just a little bit?
Absolutely. When I first, had my daughter, I had to get used to from having lots of time drawing to like a very short amount of time. So I had to find ways to work her into it. And when she became interested in art around 4 years old, she started adding on to my sketchbook. So pretty soon it started turning into her adding little characters on there. So now we find ways to work together when we do our artwork. So she's added on to little bodies that I've done. And I try to include her in all the different projects we have, so she names my little monster dolls that I have. She gives them all a kiss on their way home. She's done all things like come up with different ideas for projects. So she's got so many ideas that she's the one that inspires me to create.
Your daughter has become quite her own artist now. Like she's doing her own Instagram, and she's producing stuff for her friends at school.
That's right. Yeah.
So, as a parent who has a child, what kinds of advice would you give when it comes to like helping your kids become creative without being overbearing?
Well, what I try to do is support whatever she's into, at least help her get the right tools. So if she's interested in stop motion, I go look for the best kind of ways to do simple stop motion and not overwhelm her. But I also try and encourage her to do, if she's interested in that, I don't know how to do it, let's see how we do it. So let's Google some YouTube videos, let's kind of, see some instructions online, let's see what we can do. So as much as I can get some information for her on my part of it to help her create and make the way a little bit easier, then she can just go wild and create without me hovering over every little thing she does.
You've really mastered like a lot of different mediums. Like you draw, you paint, you do cross stitch. You're sculpting.
Embroidery.
You're tattooing now. So, what kind of advice do you have for people who are looking to get into art, and what kind of things could you tell them?
I always say I have a crazy obsession with a little bit of everything. So I'm always very curious about how to do certain things. I'll go look up how to do it. I get fascinated with something for a very short time, and then I try something else. I feel like I exhaust it. I go try to find out how to, hey, I wonder if I could needle felt, and then give it a try and see if it sticks. I find out every information I can. I get some materials and give it a try, and I'm just very curiously interested in a bunch of different mediums. So I like everything from painting and sculpting, but that's a good way when I have art block to go from one to another. If I get where I just can't seem to draw something, you know what, it's time to needle felt for a little while, or it's time to sew. So it comes in handy that way, that I can just bounce from one thing to another.
Yeah, and I love all the characters that you're always interested in, and it's neat watching you draw. There you go now. Watching you draw, I'm kind of seeing like what kinds of things you're experiencing, because there are different TV shows or different movies, or a lot of pop culture, a lot of cult culture. I just love it.
There are some things that people will say, hey, can you draw somebody from this show or that show, that I'm not at all interested in, and I just don't. It's not something that is a part of something I'm interested in, then I just don't get inspired by it. But yeah, a lot of movies I watch, I love to draw faces, so if anything has like a cool character in it, I might not be a horror fan, but I love American Horror Story because they have strange characters. So anybody that has an interesting character with a cool face, I'm all over that.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
It's so great to see you.
Thank you.
So it's great that we're seeing so much different kind of stuff. So we have this like very almost gothic or baroque, scary, natural sculpture, and then you have this like almost whimsical and cute, playful sculpture that's going on. Lots of color as opposed to the mute palette that's over here. So it's neat to see this kind of combination between the two. All right, so here with Dom and Creepy Hill. Hey, what's up? Hi, it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So you guys have a really kind of unique style because you're collaborators. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for Creepy Hill, Catherine, who is my wife, she actually designs these creatures, and I'm the one that's sculpting them. And together we sort of create this wall of like magical creatures. It's all sort of like belong to this universe that we're trying to build over at Creepy Hill.
So how's the dynamic work with the being spouse and then also like co-collaborators?
It works well. I mean, there are pros and cons, sometimes you get into arguments, and it's like any relationship, it's like give and take, but it goes pretty well.
What advice would you have for future sculptors out there?
About working with your partner on projects? Don't do it. Don't do it. No. I mean, it's a really fulfilling career. I would say like it takes a lot of time, and if you're passionate about it, it's really easy to like just put yourself into your work and just get better at it over time. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, man.
Good meeting you. Thank you so much. So we're coming up on VTSS, which is a company that does a lot of printing.
Hi. How are you? Nice to meet you.
So can you explain to us a little bit about what you guys do?
Yeah, we are a professional art toy manufacturer. We are based in Taiwan. Our brand is VTSS and things. Yeah, so we work with artists to make their flat design into physical sculptures. Yeah.
So they send you a picture of what they want to do and you turn it into a sculpture?
Yeah, we can do 3D render or any kind of design. Yes.
And so is that just for prototypes, or do you actually produce them as well?
Yeah. We can 3D from 3D to physical prototype and to products. Yeah.
Very cool. You have a lot of different kind of product, I see. Thank you so much. Good luck today.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey man.
How's it going? Can we help you guys?
No. Well, we can, but we have to charge.
Oh, charge? Yeah. I got some change.
Ah! It's my wife.
Very excited. Hello. Nice to meet you. You're right.
So you're doing an interview for Plastic Cell? Doing a video blog?
I love plastics.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Are you plastic cell?
Yeah, me and my brother.
Yeah, you're the sculptor, right?
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't belong in such greatness.
You need to see what he's working on right now. We just finished.
Oh. Crazy stuff.
Thank you. Same.
So you guys have been doing the con for what? 4 or 5?
I've been doing it for 6 years.
6 years?
You probably far longer.
Yeah. And so we have a lot of like beginning artists. So what kinds of things would you tell like beginning artists that are trying to break into sculpting or break into the art world?
I think just do it. Keep doing it. Keep practicing, and perseverance pays off. Just keep developing your ideas, and try and be original. Try not to rip somebody else off.
People all support each other.
Yeah, it's a very supportive scene. So
it's very what?
Very supportive. So there's a lot of mutual support between artists. Like I don't feel competition with Jesse, not because his ideas are mundane, but because if he does better, the whole scene does better, I do better. So it's like a mutual uplifting thing.
It's great. It's great. It's amazing advice. No, I would say stick to your guns. It might not be popular, it might not be trendy, but you can only do what you know. And when you do that, it shows, versus trying to adapt to something that might be cute, or something that might be gothic, or something that might be popular.
It's always, unless you feel you fit in, the better your artwork is going to be, because more unique, that's a horrible phrase.
Because
it's
art,
close to being unique.
Yeah, and because art's it's an extension of yourself. When you don't get a good vibe from it, you kind of take it personally. And it's hard. You have to have a thick skin and just be very adamant that you stick to what you know and keep at it. Because this is not street art. This is suburban art at best, you know? This is kind of old-fashioned looking, but juxtaposed against a modern form. So if you think about it in the context of the bigger picture, it shouldn't be viable in some ways, right?
Yeah.
But I still persevere because I can't do street art. I don't have any link to it, right? So I just did what I know, and then people gravitated towards it. So
well, I think that's what I like so much about both of your art is like you're doing something that's not really even out there. And I know for me it was really hard to find my voice. And it took me a lot of time to realize, like, you know, I'm not going to be a Giger and I'm not going to be a Chet Zar.
That's okay, because there already are.
There already are, yeah. So how did you guys go about finding, like, your style?
Well, first of all, when I first got into it, everything was super cute. It was like mid-noughties. Everything was super minimal, really cute, or really kind of street. And I didn't fit into that at all. And I didn't feel I had a style. I didn't realise at the time, I guess, that I did. It was only when I had to do it for myself, I entered like a competition at a local gallery. And that was it. It kind of just confirmed, oh, I do have a style. I have my own flavour, my own voice in this world. It just rolled from there, I guess.
For me, it's everything's in the facilitation of narrative, and I tend to want to tell stories that are a little bit darker, a little bit more somber or melancholy in nature, and the style sort of lends itself to that environment more so than an urban setting or a futuristic setting. And so filigree and the Baroque and the Gothic is probably a little bit more appropriate, especially if I'm telling stories about life and death and trying to reconcile like feelings that you might have and you can't, get over things. So I think it was a natural progression of something that fit. And I think when you are in the pursuit of trying to tell like stories, that's the key, and the medium is just the means to get there.
Thank you guys so much. It's always great getting to talk with you guys. It's like my charge for the year.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you. We're coming in on two sculptors, Willy and Uncle Skiro. Hey guys, how are you doing today?
Chilling, man.
How's your con going?
Steady.
Good. So you guys do digital sculpting?
Yes.
Okay, you do digital sculpting. And are you doing your own work, or are you producing for other artists as well?
Oh, this I do both. These are my own work, and I also take some freelance jobs. And this one is a collaboration with Lando.
I designed it, and then we'll have it hopefully released for early next year. And a smaller scale for next DCon.
Very cool. So this is it's Urkel?
Yeah, Urkelbot.
Urkelbot.
Friendly Matters.
Very cool.
And we also collaborated on the Mega Man capsules from the video game. And also do the paint work,
So you do each individual hand-painted piece?
Yeah, it's just easier to be in control of some things.
Yeah. Wow. So, so this is your work as well?
It's my friend Taylor's work.
Oh, your friend Taylor?
Yeah, she's an illustrator. She also sculpts and paints.
Oh, wow.
She's sick, so she couldn't be here today.
Very nice. So we have a lot of young viewers that are watching the channel, and what advice would you have for them going into art, trying to get into the business?
In the business, that's different. So I would say, out of the business, don't create any limitations or hindrance. Just what might be weird to others might be cool to somebody else, and just work with it and flow, and find that uniqueness within you that it relates to your work and shows for itself. In the business, ask questions, talk to everybody, network, learn from other people's mistakes, and just make the best of the information that you get while you have time on Earth.
I would think for breaking into the art, I would say probably try to find a passion and like anatomy, very important.
Anatomy.
Anatomy. Okay.
Anatomy very important. And to break into the business, I would say to have a connection to know people and go to convention like DesignerCon.
DesignerCon's a good one.
More people, so like there's an opportunity you never know will happen.
Yeah, you never know what happens.
All right, well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, pleasure.
Good luck with the rest of your con. Hey, how's it going? Hey, Gorilla.
Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah,
I know we still gotta do our battle. I ain't forget that.
This is Plastic Cell TV. So we're just walking around looking at different artists and talking to them about doing the con. How's your con going so far?
It's going pretty good. Definitely pretty happy with the release of my new character, Bonnie, and people are really liking her, so pretty happy.
Nice. Now you just had a run of these ones, the Bamrang?
The Bayram.
Bayram. And you had a lot of different artists sculpting on it?
Yeah, so I had actually it was with Tenacious Toys, and we had artists, from all over the world just show me their version of Bayram. But I was quite happy, quite pleased with the turnout. We had about 40 artists, and I think we left with like maybe a handful of pieces left. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
that's really cool to have something that you created and something that you kind of developed to be interpreted by a whole bunch of different artists.
Yeah, like I purposely made Bayram this way for customizers. Like there is an official Bayram, like the big fluffy, like the king. But for this one, I'm like, you know, you don't see too many unique DIYs. So I'm like, hey guys, here's something with giant horns. Let me see what you can do.
Very cool. I know you're not supposed to have a favorite, but did you have a favorite piece?
Oh man, I tried not to have a favorite piece, but let me think. See, now you're like, I'd probably say my favorite piece was Dark Astrus. Her sculpting is just unbelievable, super clean. I love the blue and I love gold, so the blue and the gold together, like it was definitely like the piece hasn't sold, and at this point I'm like, decon's over, I'm like, I might have to finally add something to my collection. Yeah, but definitely I say my Fifth Turtle double cast Bayrams, that just blew me away. I'm just like, is this a piece that goes on like my mom's kitchen table? You know, we don't play in that room. Like that was probably my second favorite.
That's cool. Now, did you start out as a custom artist, or were you? How'd you get your start
in the toy scene?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was 4 years ago. I'm a junior 3D artist in New York City, and I met Playful Gorilla at New York Comic Con. And I came across one of his characters, and it was just the silhouette. Like I'm like, okay, Superman, Batman, but then I saw like his silhouette of the ape, and I was like, sir, please tell me what this is. And his charismatic attitude with all the energy is like, here we go, I'm gonna tell you. And I'm like, oh, I like this guy, he's cool. And ever since then, he was like, he invited me to his first show. Then he invited me to New York Comic Con, gave me a little area to work with. He taught me everything I know what to do. He taught me casting, painting techniques, and from there, he just kind of said, okay, you fly now. You got this, do your thing. And now I'm here.
Awesome. Now, we're doing this for a lot of people who are getting into art or really looking to try and hone their skills. What kind of advice would you have for them?
Okay, definitely if you're trying to get into the toy scene, or even, do you mean the toy scene or do you mean art in general?
Just, I think art in general.
One thing I had to say, if I can say anything, is no matter what type of art you want to do, create medium, do what feels right in your heart, no matter what. No matter what people say, how many likes you have, because if you're truly doing what you love, the people will come. So just never give up on that. Just keep pushing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Keep it up. Great stuff.
Thank you.
All right. I recognize Vanessa.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Stumbling in on this booth.
Hi. Hey, Conrad. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So tell me a little bit about your artwork.
Well, mostly I'm a sports illustrator, but now and then I really like to do like alternative movie posters and a lot of pop culture, some original work too.
Very cool. I noticed your sidekicks. Tell me a little bit about the sidekicks and how you developed that.
Well, you know, my favorite is the underdog, so I love drawing sidekicks and highlighting them, so I thought it would be awesome. It first started with Chewbacca and him doing a jumping sidekick, and from there it just kind of went off.
Nice. So what kind of, you've got Chewbacca and Robin and Samwise Gamgee. What's next on your list of sidekicks?
I mean, here's the thing is that like when I start looking at the list of sidekicks, it's like, man, there's so many. So actually I really want to do more Star Wars, like C-3PO, maybe some unsung heroes. I like wrestling, maybe some wrestling sidekicks like that. So I wanted to branch off to more than just movies.
Awesome. And how's your DesignerCon going?
DesignerCon's awesome. I've been helping Table here for about 3 or 4 years, so I really love that we moved to a bigger venue, and I think that the people and like just the culture is just growing, so I love it.
Awesome. And so one of the questions we've been asking is, what advice do you have for future artists that are out there?
Future artists? Well, number one, I would say definitely it's a mixture of making a plan and not having a plan, right? Letting things happen naturally. There's gonna be a lot of pressure from a lot of places. I was lucky enough to have a family that was really pushing me to go towards my art, but not the case all the time. I would just say, you know, take time to build yourself up, take time to realize what you're doing, try to be you, because that's where you're gonna stand out, not trying to be somebody else.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Asking some questions about the con and how's your con been going?
Oh, doing great. It's always great.
around artists, so that's especially why I really like DesignerCon over other conventions. So,
what other conventions do you do?
I do a lot of like international ones, like Beijing Comic Con I did, Shanghai, New York. I've been traveling around for a while.
So you do illustration and sculpture?
Yeah, I do animation, sculpture, pretty much everything with art. I try to like switch it up just so I don't get bored.
What's your favorite?
I would say right now sculpture, just because like designer tools have been growing so much, and like I just love collecting them myself. Like plastic cell, like I collect plastic cell, I collect tons of toys, so it's like creating them myself is just like you can hold your art. So it's, I don't know, that's probably one of my favorites.
I love your Pikachu. It's
Oh,
like
thanks, man. Thank
really
you.
tongue in cheek, and it's really fun.
Thank you.
Where'd you get the concept from? Where's the idea?
I mean, a lot of my concepts they start just kind of like silly ideas that I just take to the next level, and then I guess you think like whenever someone says like any idea is not a bad idea, so I kind of use that to try to take advantage of silly ideas. Like I mean, like my whole Free book or whatever is pretty much just like silly ideas that are just like, I don't know, it's like a quick laugh, and that's pretty much what
I'm a big Pooh joke. I love your Winnie the Pooh thing.
Oh, thanks, man. So yeah, I try to connect with people with like simple stuff like that, pop culture. Like a lot of my concepts are really simple. Like poo is poo poo, so it's I guess a lot of like concepts come from like stuff that I feel like I connect with people as well. And pop culture is a big one for me because it's easier for people to connect immediately with. So.
We're asking a lot of the artists, what kind of advice would you give to someone out there who's just starting as an artist? Like,
I would say just do it, and like don't be scared to do. I hear a lot of artists like, oh, I'm scared I'm gonna fail. I'm scared people are not supporting my work, but you can't like let that dictate what you do. You just gotta do it and jump in. If at the end of the day, if no one buys your shit, you're still like investing time into your work and something you love, and that to me, you already won like doing something like that. So
yeah, I think definitely in a place like this, you're gonna find something.
Oh, of course. Like there's so much diversity in the audience and people that you connect with. You never know who's gonna see your stuff. I would say just do it. Just do it.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. For sure. Nice meeting you.
Come on in for. All right, so this is Mark, Kind Nuggets.
How you doing? Kind Nuggets. How you guys doing?
All right. So Mark's really gotten into a lot of the sculpting through Classic Cell. Correct?
Classic Cell. My first attempt at sculpting was this kind of stuff here, and then when I wanted to take a step up, what I did was I did an Edgar Allan Poe off of the original White Cell, and then while I was sculpting that, I came here and I met you guys, and this whole place blew my mind, and I've never stopped. That was pretty much the slippery slope, man, and I've just been going down ever since. So love the White Cell format. I've been kind of playing around with that. So this is the latest here with the I want to get into the female forms, and that's the thing that I've been kind of holding off on, mainly because monsters are easy, man. Something ugly, it's easy to sculpt, because if it doesn't come out right, that's kind of the intent. But the female form's a lot more subtle, a lot trickier, so that's kind of my next real goal. And I've already done a few, so I'm definitely enjoying it. So I plan on doing many more female forms, and then kind of playing around with different. Again, I kind of want to try everything. That's the point. I started art late in life, and I want to try it all. So everything, anything.
Now, one of the neat parts for your work is the fact that this isn't your full-time job. You have a full-time job where you're teaching, and yet you're still finding time to do the art. What kind of advice would you give to people out there who say, like, I don't have a lot of time to do art, it's not, I just can't make it? What do you tell them?
So that's always the excuse, right? I don't have time. So if something's important to you, you'll make time. That's it, just make time. So if it's something small, as long as you're doing something every day, I think you're gonna grow. And that's kind of the ultimate thing I learned is, I sucked, but everybody sucks. And as long as you keep going, you're gonna suck less and less and less. And over time, you'll eventually get there. So for me, I was willing to put in the time. I was willing to make the time because I was seeing a little bit of those like small increments of improvement. And as long as I kept seeing that, I kept going. And then that's all you kind of need is just keep plugging away, do it every day. So I teach English, and one of the things I tell students all the time is you do suck. And that's why you're scared of writing. You guys are always trying to avoid it because you're scared that you're not good, and that's absolutely true. You're not good, but that's exactly why we're doing this. It's exactly why you're here. Everybody sucks when you start, but as long as you keep going, keep plugging away, you're gonna get better automatically. And so if something's important to you, you wanna get good at it, you just gotta make the time. And if you're not willing to make the time, you won't get good, and that's just how it works. So that's the plan, is just to keep going until I die, and then hopefully by then I'll be good, so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
And here we have Ryan Soto, the myth.
How's it going?
How you doing, Ryan?
What's up, guys?
All right, so you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started with the plastic stuff?
I got started, just found you guys on Instagram. I fell in love with what you guys were doing, so I thought I'd give it a shot. I love customizing toys. I started customizing these monies. And then it turned into that. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. It's great because I started the same way. Like, I was doing the monies, and I just felt like I hit a wall. Like, there was nowhere to go. And so, like, I feel the same way. Like, plastic sells, like, so much to do.
Versatile, yeah. You can get a lot more stuff done. A lot more detail, a lot more. You bring a lot more life to it.
Yeah, and on your latest sculpt, you were one of the few that did original stuff, and I love this piece. It's so organic, and it's got so much life to it, and so much story in there.
Thank you.
How do you develop your pieces? Original pieces.
For this piece, I just started off with the body. I had the idea for the little arms on the side. Kind of wanted to like sexy pose like this. I just built off of that, little by little. I would think of something to incorporate it. I had no idea where it was going from the start, and this is what I came up with.
And you were a winner for the mask challenge, right? That was this one.
For Sora? Yeah.
Yeah. The detail on that is just amazing. Like, that was I think one of my, like, oh my gosh, this guy is gonna do some great things with this piece.
Thank you.
How long did that take you?
I think a good 2 months. I think I used a full 2 months to get it done. I used a magic sculpt all in layers, so it took quite some time waiting for it to harden up and then move on to the next layer. But I had a few problems with casting. I don't know if you guys experienced it too, but I used 300. Most of the fins snapped off. Okay. So it's a lesson to learn. You know, you start using different materials, experiment a little bit more.
And I think that's a good point. So we have a lot of viewers that are going to be watching this thinking like, this is something I want to do. So what advice would you have for those viewers?
Just think of something, try it out. You know, all this is experiments. I didn't know if they were going to work out. Hopefully they did. I'm happy about that. You always learn. Each one gets better and better. So just don't stop. Keep trying.
Her boots finally kind of slowed down. I don't even think she's there. Hold on. Oh. Okay. So we're coming into Caroline McFarlane-Wats. She's a sculptor. Has been doing a lot of really amazing characters with a lot of great expression. I'm really excited about this because my mom is a huge fan. Like, she follows you on Instagram, and she's always like sending me pictures of what you're working on. How do you come up with your characters?
Well, first of all, thanks for the interest. Most of it comes from, it was inspired by like European fairy tale witch character. So that's how I built up my my project, the Witches Characters.
And do you use reference, or how do you develop? Is it just like you find a character and you're let's her, or is it built up of lots of different kinds of?
There's lots of stories about all these different characters, and I'll develop characters, research like I've got lots of techniques that characters from and then, like, for example, this character here is Swedish, this one's Greek, Irish, American, Russian, Dutch. So I'll research all these different cultures and get all these ideas, and that's how the character is born.
Now, do you do, because I've seen some of your prints, so are you doing like the sculpting and the digital sculpting?
I do absolutely everything you see.
Oh, wow. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. But it's a passion project.
Have you ever thought of doing any like stop motion or developing something for like a children's book?
So my background is 3D miniature, so I've done all that. But I've kind of now moved on to doing my figurines, as you see, mass-produced figurines and get them done overseas. And children's books are actually coming out next year.
Oh, wonderful.
There's some artwork for the books there. Yeah, and ultimately, eventually, we'll move on to.
Now, are these going to be your stories that you're telling? Or
Yeah.
So they're your images?
Yeah, Good Witches, Bad Witches was created by me, and it's a whole world of witches that were expelled from our world, and they've all got a different story to tell. So the children's books is it's like a whole series of these witches, and each book is about a different character, right? The first story is all about Hortense, the French witch.
I just love all of your expression and the colors you choose tell you so much about your story, your narrative.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for giving us the time.
Thank you.
So Luke is one of those breakthrough artists that you got to really see. He was always out on the scene. Every show had a Luke Chu piece in it. He's done a whole bunch of stuff with both two-dimensional and three-dimensional. Really exciting to get to meet him. We're here with Luke Chu. You've been doing this for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And you're pretty much mastered like all of the prints, painting, toys. I mean, really kind of set the bar high. What was your favorite out of all that stuff? What's your favorite medium?
I still very much consider myself a painter and a toy designer kind of second, because I unfortunately don't like sculpt my own toys. We usually go to other people to do all the three-dimensional work, because they can do it much better than I can. And I'm always interested in creating a quality product, so go to the professionals.
You've done a really good job of creating like a brand for yourself so that people recognize you. What kinds of things would you advise you to do to someone new to the scene, someone who's really trying to want to break in?
I would recommend that people should try and approach this from different from different verticals. Whether it's because you have these toys, but then there's also 2D stuff, even animation or paintings, etc. Try and explore that brand through several different mediums in order to get them as the ideas out there. Sorry for the
that's
having fun.
So what's next then on the horizon for you?
In the immediate horizon, I am doing some shows in Asia. I've got an upcoming solo show in Manila, and then I'm actually next week I'm heading out to Singapore for another convention, and trying to spread myself out, around the globe.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And for Tranimated, he came all the way out here. I believe he's East Coast. I said you got new work now.
Yes.
So glad to see that you're still sculpting.
Thanks, man.
So this was a collaboration, correct?
Yeah.
With from Alex. Yeah. And so you're East Coast now again? Where is it? Chicago? Philly. And so I'm so glad to see that you're still sculpting. I was really worried when you decided that you weren't maybe going to be doing as much sculpture anymore.
Oh, because I was trying to paint with the 3D.
Yeah.
I'm trying to play both.
Well, that's great.
I still love traditional.
Yeah.
It's like really tangible.
Well, your traditional stuff is so great. I love your characters.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time and patience. And watching you guys inspires me to keep doing it.
Now, we're asking all of our groups that we're going to, what kind of advice would you be giving to an up-and-coming artist, somebody who's looking to break into this industry?
Never get discouraged. Just keep pushing it. There are times that you're gonna fail, but it's a learning curve. Always build yourself up. Just take everything as an exercise to get better. Because even though there's people that are better than you, but they can teach you to get to where you are.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I've been seeing you. That was really fun. We're gonna head back to our booth right now, and I'm gonna do a little bit of sculpting. We're here with Rockin' Pins and Mauricio. We've been lucky enough to share a booth with him all day. Mauricio, you want to tell us a little bit about about your product and how you got into doing licensing?
Sure. The way I got into it was I'm really into obscure stuff, obscure pop culture stuff, whether it be television, music. So there was a band called Magma from France. I got really into them, but because they're so obscure, there's just no merchandise for them. I really wanted a pin of their logo. I made it, reached out to the band, said, hey, here's some pins, sell them. You know, if you guys do well, then that's great. Robert Trujillo of Metallica is a fan of Magma. I got connected with him, and then through just working with different bands, I went from Magma to Black Sabbath. I did like a DVD for them, like pins, and then just slowly said, you know, hey, let me reach out to all these bands who I'm fans of. Let me, you know, help them out, make merchandise, just make stuff that isn't out there, that just people really want, you know, hasn't been made. And that kind of goes into also the other properties I have, whether it be cartoons like Betty Boop, Mighty Mouse, legendary icons, Richard Pryor, Bruce Lee. I kind of want to use my company to celebrate all these old legends. You know, pop culture these days changes so frequently, but I want to kind of go back and honor the people that, you know, that inspired what's going on now. So I'm excited, you know, starting off with pins, celebrate these legends, but now teaming up with Plastic Cell, we're going to be celebrating Richard Pryor, officially licensed, went through his wife Jennifer, she approved everything, and one thing that really just amazes me about the way they work is the likeness that they get on the figures. I've seen some figures where they get the likenesses, but they look stiff, robotic, but the way they work is just lifelike, just, you know, feels almost like it come back to life. But yeah, you know, started off with pins, slowly, you know, building up my brand, want to celebrate legends is what's most important to me. Just get the stuff out there that, you know, fans don't know they want it yet until we put it in front of them, and then they get reminded of, hey, I used to watch Laurel and Hardy, I used to watch the Three Stooges, Little Rascals. So I kind of want to celebrate, you know, nostalgia, celebrate the people that came before us.
You work in licensing, which is a really hard industry to get into. Yeah. What advice would you have for somebody who wants to do something more with licensing?
Don't reach for something big. You know, if you're, hey, I want to get Rick and Morty, you got to be realistic that those type of companies will want a lot of money. If it's something really popular, you're going to have to go in there with prepared, with money, a business plan, everything. The best thing I could do to best advice I could give is start small. Maybe don't go for the biggest cartoon. Maybe start off with you know, lesser known property. Like for instance, I started off with Gumby. Gumby only cost me like around $1,000 just to start. But with that investment, it adds to your portfolio. So then you could approach somebody else that you do want to work with, you know, somebody who you know, is your goal. Say, hey, I've already worked with Gumby, Betty Boop, whatever. Build your portfolio first. Don't just spend all your money on the big property, because then you're gonna be like in with the little fish in a big pond. It's too big. You're gonna get caught up. Start off slow, small property, figure things out. You know, less of a risk, and then just build that way. Learn through that first license. Property first, learn how the process is gonna be, then you could work your way up to the bigger stuff. Because, you know, King of the Hill is right now, they're Disney now. So it used to be Fox, now Disney. I never would have been able to handle this right off the gate. So with starting off with smaller brands, it kind of, you know, helps you learn as you go. I'd recommend Licensing Expo. It happens every year in Las Vegas. Go there for a weekend, check it out, because that's where everybody who you want to work with, everything in terms of licensing, they're going to be there. So it gives you an opportunity to talk to them, kind of get an idea of what to do, what it's going to be like, how much you're going to have to pay, how much you're going to have to pay them for royalties and stuff. But yeah, I'd say go to the Licensing Expo, start off small, and just learn with the small property first, and then you could get onto the bigger stuff. But yeah, that's like a big one for me is like, yeah, just start off small. Don't go too big, crazy at first. You know, don't spend all your money on one thing and then you're gonna, you know, end up failing. Start off small, have enough money to work and build and grow.
All right, well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure sitting in.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. So it's been a fun day. I'm using the plastic cell male base to do a bounty hunter here. So right now I'm just blocking out a lot of the forms, trying to find my character. I got a lot of reference. I'm an artist that likes to use a lot of reference so that I can make things feel more natural. A lot of times my reference doesn't even have to do with the exact sculpture that I'm working on. It might be a gesture, it might be just a feeling. I'm looking at a picture and I'm getting a feeling and I want to express that feeling in my sculpture. So so a lot of times that's what I'm doing with sculpture. I like to use Super Sculpey when I'm sculpting. For this particular sculpt, I'm doing it on a very short time. So I'm using the Sculpey Original because it's softer and I'm able to get a lot more built out in a shorter amount of time. For the Andre piece, which is an original sculpt using plastic cell proportions, I use the Super Sculpey Firm because it gives me a lot more, the ability to get a lot more closer detail, and I was able to work on this one for a lot longer, so I wasn't in quite the rush. For the Gorilla, I used a combination of Sculpey, wire. I had the plastic cell base, which on that one I was using the female form because I knew I was going to be building up a lot, and I also knew that I'd be cutting her quite a bit, and so having the smaller limbs made it a lot easier to cut off. So basically with my sculpting, I got started in high school. I was a potter by nature and I was getting kind of bored with the just simple vessels. So to me, like, sculpture was the natural next step. In college, I played around with a little bit of bronze, simply because a lot of the forms that I wanted to create, like these, you know, skinny figures with standing on two legs, with like a large head, that was just not a possibility without molding at the time. And when I was sculpting, I had no understanding of doing things in resin or even using silicone or any of that kind of stuff. So when I was doing mold making, it was plaster, it took multiple pieces, it was a headache. So I was really frustrated and I started playing around with bronze, which was a great medium. I loved working in wax, I loved getting that standing figure, the dynamic poses, the action shots, but it just wasn't an economical type of material for me. It was very expensive. I didn't have the equipment once I left high school. Once I left college. So luckily I found artists like the Schiffel brothers who were working in this polymer clay, and it opened up a whole new world to me. So I could start working at things like in my living room. And that's one of the reasons I love Sculpey, I love the monster clays, is because you don't have to have a studio. You don't have to have expensive equipment. All you need is an oven or a heat gun, a few wood tools, and just a place to sit. So a lot of the sculpting I do is at the dinner table or sitting on the couch while my wife and daughter are watching a TV show. It's just been a great material for me. When I'm thinking about things for sculptors who are out there or people who want to get into art, my suggestion is you got to just keep doing it. And one of the great things about plastic cell is it's built a really good community, and I've watched a lot of artists come up who, you know, the first piece they make it's a pretty good piece for a beginner, and it seems like within a year of piece after piece after piece, suddenly they're an expert, and suddenly they're the ones to be watching. There's a lot of artists that have come through that told me like, oh, I got started because I saw you doing plastic cell, and now I'm using them as my benchmark of like, what do I need to do to improve? What do I need to do to step up my game? And so that's been a really fun experience.